And so we begin. This is the Soul Path Wisdom class for the month of April 2024. And I'm going to start out by saying this is a power-packed month. We don't get this kind of radical energy all that often. And highlighted by the solar eclipse on April 8th, which is our starting point in terms of charts, but also that this is the month that the Uranus-Jupiter alignment, conjunction, coming together, setting a cycle. This is the month where it finally comes together exactly. And you can see just starting out here that they're pretty close together. And they have been both in the sign of Taurus since last year. Jupiter came in around May. By the summertime, they were getting within a wide orb, and they've just been getting closer and closer. And I feel like we've all been feeling that energy. If we think about Taurus as the earth, our physical bodies, work, the way that we sort of dig in and grind it out, keep making things happen. We've got Uranus bringing us new insights, ideas, innovations about what's needed for all those grounded security aspects of life. And then we've had Jupiter expanding that, making it bigger. So making the feeling of the problems bigger, making us worry more in some ways, that it just seems like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end faster and faster, but also expands the potential for the inventions, the innovations, the technology. And of course, we know over here with Pluto and Aquarius that we are coming into this 20-year period where understanding innovations and inventions and technology and what it can do for us, how it can help us and improve our lives, but also where it's gone too far. And the shadow material, the fears are there. We've got that as the overall curriculum that we're dealing with as a collective. And also, of course, this is in each one of your personal charts. And that's always what I'm focusing a lot on, is what is going on in your personal chart? Where are these things relevant? And so with Uranus in Taurus, it's a specific focus on where that radical change has to happen, where you're asleep to your needs, where you feel stuck in the mud. And getting deeper and deeper, we get this possibility of a breakthrough. And the breakthrough doesn't have to be on April 20th, and we always put so much emphasis on the day that something is exact. But honestly, I feel like the days, weeks, months leading up to an exact cycle change are really where a lot of the intensity is. If you think about 2020, where we had Pluto and Saturn lining up, and we had Pluto and Jupiter lining up a couple of times, and then finally at the end of the year, we had Saturn and Jupiter lining up in Aquarius. That year, of course, that was a pandemic year, and it was wild and crazy and really intense. But I also noticed that people were going through a lot in 2018 and 2019 when Saturn was in Capricorn and Pluto was already in a Capricorn, and Saturn was in those first 20 degrees, remaking, reshaping, restructuring the way that it does, pointing out where the flaws and the problems were in everybody's structure. That was already going on before we hit the alignments. We all felt someplace that we were needing to get ready. We were processing what was in the way of us accomplishing our deepest karmic goals. And so we're in this same place now with Uranus and Jupiter getting ready for their alignment. And meanwhile, before that happens on the 20th, we have this solar eclipse, a new moon in the sign of Aries at 19 degrees and 23 minutes. So we'll call it 19. Although technically in astrology, we're supposed to round everything up. So we call it 19 or 20. And of course, it's near the North Node because eclipses are always near the nodes. The fact that the crossing of the path of the sun and the path of the moon is, naturally where eclipses are going to be. But we also see that we have this huge stellium connected to the North Node. And the North Node is always what's taking us to where we're meant to go. So in the fall, we had a solar eclipse in Libra, and that can be something that's a little hard to wrap your mind around because solar eclipse in Libra is at the South Node. South Node is where we're releasing things that don't work, where we're attuned to excesses in relationship with Libra, where we give too much, where we're too conciliatory, mediating, basically codependent that where we're so trying to make everything harmonious that maybe we don't ever get anything done. And so when we had an eclipse there in Libra, and it's like, oh, well, we're starting and we're getting a burst of energy toward Libra affairs, relationship, peace, balance, harmony, but we're also letting go. So like it's a little murky, but there is no doubt about what we're doing here based on all you've been feeling, all that's been building for almost a year now since the nodes went into Libra and Aries. This is the one that says, go for it. The first eclipse in Aries was last April at 29 degrees. So that was the first burst of this series. But now at 19, we're right in the middle. And we've got Venus connected to it. So, the relationship energy in the sky, the vibration that is about attracting and stabilizing relationship and resources naturally attuned to Libra is not in Libra. It is in Aries. And it is saying, relate in a way that is filled with life force and vitality. Be clear about what your needs are. Be direct. I remember many years ago when I was trying to parse out my own Venus in Aries opposite Neptune in Libra. And I was working a lot at that time with sand tray work and studying it and also leading people in it. And so I tried to do a sand tray to show my Venus in Aries and my Neptune in Libra so that I could see them visually in the sand as two different figurines and see what they needed and how I could help them connect and come together a little bit. And the Venus in Libra turned out to want to be this fierce princess riding a horse, fast, strong, powerful, and yet beautiful, connecting to really strong masculine and feminine archetype, both. Whereas the Neptune in Libra is much more of a gentle priestess, just much more about the unconditional love, the bringing of the divine energies through in this more balanced way. So that's the vibration of this eclipse, with a lot of extra emphasis on the fiery horse riding warrior, because we've got Venus, yes, but then sun and moon, direction, choice, power, and what brings us security, the way that we caretake ourselves and those around us. And then Chiron, the energy of the wounded healer, the thing that says, you are already Aries-like. You have it within you to be courageous and brave and do what you want. And in fact, If you have this in your own chart, it would say you're doing it, you're demonstrating it, so trust it, understand this is what you teach and this is what you heal out of your own experience. But even when it's in the sky and it's just in your Aries framework, wherever you have Aries, and look at that, how tight it is. 19 degrees, 24 minutes at the moment of this eclipse, 1923. This is exact. That this energy adds extra about how important it is to be courageous at this point in time and to be willing to live our lives in alignment with our truth. And I say that also because Jupiter, the planet of truth, the planet that it's all about seeking meaning and truth in life, is right there, very, very close to this. And the truth of what we might want to direct and move forward in Aries might be a little fast, furious, and impulsive for Taurus, but there's Uranus helping breakthrough, helping move things along a little bit faster. And then meanwhile, we have Mercury in Aries, but retrograde. And almost the whole month, Mercury will be retrograde. Mercury is turning retrograde on April 1st, which means right now, as we're talking, Mercury is stationed, sort of sitting there, just like adding extra emphasis. I don't know about all of you, but I've certainly noticed that we're at a Mercury retrograde time with confusion and miscommunications. And here we are. The whole month is just going to go back and back and back and back through Aries. And then right around the 25th, 26th, it goes direct. So while we're having, the excess energy of the eclipses to move us forward, we're going to be slowed down a little bit. That's basically how I'll describe it. As you know, we just had a lunar eclipse on the 25th of March, and it was in Libra. So Moon in Libra, Sun in Aries. And that was a little message about this, letting go process and what isn't working for you in your relationships, and focusing a little bit more on what you want. And here we have Venus kind of holding that position at around 5 degrees of the Aries to sort of mimic a little bit the lunar eclipse. But while we're getting this burst forward, and without a Mercury retrograde, we might all just break through wherever we've been feeling stuck. Mercury retrograde will have us review and rethink things, and maybe we don't fully make the new starts until the end of April or May, which would be kind of an interesting thing to do because we will have had then the Uranus-Jupiter alignment, and the full moon, which we'll go to in a moment, we'll have that, and that is a Scorpio full moon with a Taurus sun. So we are blending what is the current nodal structure of Aries and Libra with what we just came out of for the year and a half before that, 22 and 23, and what's coming next. When we come to the end of 2024, nodes moving backwards are coming into Virgo and Pisces. And so this whole structure in some way is integrating this long-term path we're in about the different nodal structures and eclipses moving through the sky. And to make mention of the Pisces, Mars and Saturn moving together. Now, remember, Mars moves things forward as the Aries planet, and Saturn moves things very slowly, the Capricorn planet. And the two of them together are really quite fabulous for business building. I mean, even Saturn and Mars in square are often seen in the charts of very successful people You don't need to be afraid of squares, and you don't need to be afraid of these more difficult planets, because, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward. And Saturn will help you build something in a masterful way, slowly and steadily, being very attuned to your foundation. And Mars will give you the courage to jump in and trust you're going to land on your feet. And you need both of them to be entrepreneurial at all. And then we have Neptune in the stellium, so it counts as merging with Saturn and Mars. And the Neptune brings in the inspiration, the imagination, the high love, the soul-centered consciousness. And it's also very close to the Venus. So you'll see and you'll feel a lot of unconditional love, a lot of soulmate connection based on this particular eclipse. And if you're doing work that is counseling and orientation in some way, where it's important that you see who people are on a soul level and love them, and you build that into the Saturn Mars, that really adds to what it is you might drive forward during this time period. And you'll see in the Washington, D.C. chart that this eclipse forms an exact trine to Leo rising. So we may see some positive movement on a belief or legal level, ninth house, and also, 10th house government. We might see some strong change coming out of these eclipses. And we know that eclipses play out in 3 to 6 months. Usually a decision or something major happens at the eclipse. 3 months later, where the planets are in the square modes, which is Cancer and Capricorn, we see maybe a shift, a step forward toward what's going to happen. And then finally, at the 3 months after that, where you have the matching eclipses, that's often where you have the outcome. That's where you have, the final choice being made or being manifested. So that will be very interesting about what it is we drive forward with, because as we know, we're having an election here in the United States in November, and Pluto will have gone back into Capricorn just for a couple of months, September, October, part of November, before moving into Aquarius permanently. So there is something about those few months in the fall that I feel are Pluto's last powerful transformation, and the showing of the corruption that needs to happen before we go into this next major process of building life out in a more Aquarian way. So I feel pretty hopeful about it from my perspective as a more progressive person, but I also feel that we are learning and we are seeing in politics in this world at this point in time that there's extremes on either end. And overall, if we're going to have balance and harmony, real Libra energy, and real equality, Aquarius, and all the Aquarius that's happened, there's going to have to be more of a solidification, compromise, meeting in the middle, finding a way to meet people's needs. And also, I feel to educate all people in a deeper way. And I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but I see that it's very much a need to have happen, because we're all in our own little silos, listening to our own sources of information, and we're not doing what it takes to build a really sustainable, equal world. I'm thinking if there's anything else I want to say about this eclipse. Well, I think maybe what we'll do is we will then go to Jupiter Uranus. So I've certainly mentioned it, but we'll see it here in the chart for April 20th. 10:26 p.m. in Washington, D.C. is the timing where they come together at 21 degrees and 49 minutes. Like I said, they've already been in process. If a baby was born in the last, 6-9 months, they have this signature in them and are likely to be someone who, has innovative, creative thoughts, somebody who is, able to come up with inventions, small or large. You just see, many, many um, great people. At OPA, we had Maria Marmonides, I think is how you say her last name, uh, who did a whole talk on Sunday on the Jupiter-Uranus alignment, and she had a great grouping of pictures of people who have it in their chart. People like Steve Jobs, who are known for their brilliant minds. And so this is, we could say like the energy of brilliant mind is building in your life right now and comes to culmination where 22 Taurus is. And whatever it is you've had on your mind that you want to create, this is the time to do it and to allow that energy to work with you. You can see that it's in a sextile, nice, harmonious, flowing, but fast and excitable connection with the Saturn Mars. So here again, like that energy of building and Neptune added to it for the spiritual quality of it. This is a beautiful connection for those of us who are doing any kind of spiritual or creative work in the world. To really, give ourselves the time and energy in this month to be able to do it. And you can see that by the time we have this alignment, around that same degree, 19-20 degrees of Aries, the degree of the eclipse, we have Venus and Chiron really lighting that position up. And we also have the Mercury retrograde now gone back almost to the North Node. So we're totally thinking about that Aries direction and what we're initiating, what we're starting, where we're fighting for what matters for us. At the time of the alignment, the moon in Virgo is in a trine. Doesn't really show here with the lines because of the orb that the software is choosing, but 22 to 29, 7-degree orb on a trine. I'm going to take that. I'm going to see and feel that the moon, especially earlier in the day, is highlighting and drawing the emotional energies and the energy of the public, which is a symbol of the moon, drawing all of that together to be part of this explosion of creative, innovative energy. At the time of this exactness, we have the sun in Taurus and it's square to Pluto. Now think of those two as both being about power. Sun is more our personal power in the way we make choices in alignment with what builds us, into a good sense of self. And Pluto is power that's more in alignment with our generational group and our destiny, where there's something intense that we are here to transform and empower. And Pluto is all about, working through whatever limits us based on karmic suffering that disempowered us. So those two together, even in a square, indicate a certain tension about your power to accomplish this thing you're asked to accomplish. And then finally, we move into the full moon in Aries. And this is at 4 degrees of Scorpio. It's on the angles in Washington with the sun connecting to partners. And wherever this is in your chart, you are focusing a little more on what you're building. You're coming into that Taurus. It's kind of another step around what gives you groundedness, stability, ease, flow. Uh, and of course, it's just on the heels of the exactness. So you're still feeling that creative energy. And Scorpio, how can you let go of the complications? Scorpio is wonderful and about power and transformation, honesty and integrity. But Scorpio can be so worried about betrayal and loss that you can get caught up in endless distrust and investigation and research and have a lot of trouble staying in some level of groundedness and security. So that's the thing to think about. This is not an eclipse. It's not considered an eclipse, but it's not that far away from the nodal axis. And again, it is the nodal axis and the eclipses that we had for a year and a half before we moved into Aries and Libra. And so this is a little bit of a last minute vibration of what we've already been working on. And I think you'll find it feels a little eclipsy, that it feels a little stronger than a typical full moon. So definitely pay attention to where this is in your chart and consider what it is that is scorpionic in that part of your chart that just isn't working for you anymore, that is keeping you from being grounded and stable, and where maybe you don't have to be quite so fearful or um, concerned. Now, we still, at this point of time of the full moon, we have the Saturn, Mars, they're a little farther apart, but they're still fundamentally together, and with Neptune. So we still have that creative spiritual vibe going to help us in what we're building. And so you can see that we are really, all month long in very similar astrological territory. And I'm very interested to find out more about what's on your mind, what you've been thinking about, what you're building, if you're launching something. And so I'm going to, take some time here to talk about what it is on your mind, what you've been thinking, and then we will look at a couple of charts.